Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorky, and welcome to another episode of Game Room, the show on this channel where I just geek out about video games, and boy am I ever going to do that on today's episode, because you see, this weekend, the newest installment in one of my favorite game franchises of all time was released. I'm of course speaking of Gears of War. No one believes that for a second. I am obviously talking about Pokemon. So, my apologies to everyone out there who wanted me to talk about Gears of War, the complete and total opposite of Pokemon. But yes, this weekend, Pokemon Sun and Moon was released, and I actually went to the midnight release of this game at Nintendo World, and there was a line going around the corner, and it felt so good to see that many fans come out to support the newest release of this game franchise. And so far, I'm roughly 15 hours into it. I'm recording this 2 days after it came out. Yeah, I've been enjoying it, and if you've been watching Game Room, then you know that recently I've started doing game reviews on this channel. However, it's going to take me a while to actually finish this game, because when it comes to Pokemon, I like to take my time. I like to run around the bushes over and over and over again until I'm sure I have caught every single thing that I can find. So the actual review of this game is going to be coming in a couple of weeks. It's going to take me a while, especially considering that Final Fantasy has a brand new game coming out in a few weeks, so over the next month, I'm going to have zero free time. But I know that there are many people out there who are Pokemon fans who follow me. In fact, I've done several Pokemon-related videos over the last year in honor of the 20th anniversary of Pokemon. So I know that there are many people out there who have been waiting to hear what I thought about this game. So rather than reviewing this game, I'm going to do something that I've never done on the channel, in which I'm just going to give you my early impressions of the game. If you guys like this and you want to see me do this with more games, then let me know that in the comments down below or on Twitter and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. But these are just my feelings about the game so far, 15 hours into it. Now, at this point in the game, I am currently on the second island and I am about to begin the first trial on that island. So, I'm not going to have too many spoilers because at this point in the game, you really haven't gotten into spoiler territory. However, if you don't want anything at all to possibly be revealed about this game, then this is your last chance. But as I said, it's a Pokemon game. It's pretty much like all the other Pokemon games. So if you played a Pokemon game, you know what to expect. Alright, everybody good? Okay, first thing that I have to say is, this is not like the other Pokemon games. If you have played the other Pokemon games, you do not know what to expect. Yes, that's something that I realized pretty early into this game, is that Sun and Moon is not like the other Pokemon games. It really does feel like someone just said, okay, here's the basic concept of Pokemon, go out there, catch all these amazing imaginary creatures. That's it. Rebuild it all from the ground up. And I know so many people out there are happy about it. I'll admit, I do not have a problem with the format of the other Pokemon games. I love going around to all 8 gyms and then challenging the Elite Four, but I fully understand that many gamers out there have been saying for years now, we need to do something different. All these games feel way too much the same. You can't just keep bringing us back by saying, hey, look, new Pokemon. You have to do some different stuff with the structure of the game. And I just gotta say this before I go any further. I made sure to avoid as many spoilers for this game as I possibly could. Sure, a couple stuff got spoiled here and there simply because it is next to impossible in this day and age when you're on Tumblr and Twitter and YouTube to avoid all the spoilers out there. So I did see a couple of the things that were spoilery in the lead up to this game. However, there are still many other things that I was able to avoid. And one of the things I was able to avoid was the fact that in this game, there are no gyms. That was shocking to me. I heard so many people actually saying, yeah, listen, I'm tired of the gyms. You can actually give us something different. As I said, I have no problem with the gyms. I kind of like the gyms. So when I started playing this, I was like, wow, I've gotten really far into this thing, and no one has mentioned a gym battle yet. Slowly it began to dawn on me, oh my god, it's actually happening. Now don't get me wrong, it's not like this was a nightmare scenario, and as soon as I realized that, I started running around going, oh my god, we're living in the darkest timeline. No. I just kind of sat there like, oh, that thing that I really like from the other games and has kind of defined all the other games is not here anymore. I don't know how to feel about that. So it's very odd that while playing a Pokemon game, I had a moment of emptiness inside in which I just sat there going, I don't know what's coming, which is not a feeling that I have had in a Pokemon game since the first one, but that's kind of exciting. That's kind of what it should give you. It should kind of give you with every single installment this feeling like I'm not just going through the routine. And as I started playing, I realized they still gave me something. Because I always loved seeing the gym leaders and seeing what Pokemon they used and seeing how each of their gyms were different. And what they did in this game is actually brilliant. There are 4 islands and every single island has a kahuna, who is basically like the mayor of the island. And you have to compete in these trials in order to challenge the kahuna to a battle. So those kind of are like gym battles, except that the kahuna then has captains underneath him, and each of the captains have their different trials, and sometimes the captains actually have Pokemon themselves, and you have to then challenge them and face them. It's like, oh my god, I got the gym battles in here without them having to be gym battles. But that's not all. It's not just the kahuna and the captains, but many times after you complete a captain's trial, you will then have to go and claim your prize, which is this jewel sitting in a totem. But the totem is then guarded by a totem Pokemon, which is a giant version of a Pokemon that is super powered and will actually have a bunch of smaller Pokemon around it to help defend the totem. That basically means that there are 3 different types of boss fights in this game, and I haven't even gotten to the point where I start challenging the evil team that's in every single game. Out of all the things that you could have done to possibly re-energize the idea of gym battles in this franchise, this was probably the smartest path they could have taken. It's probably the most imaginative path that they could have taken. Not to mention this whole idea of kahunas and these totem Pokemon, it all ties into Hawaiian mythology, and the Alola region actually is based on Hawaii. So again, I was very concerned about the fact that there would be no gym battles in this game, but after I realized what they were doing, I just had to sit back and go, damn man, you guys got this. You know what you're doing. This was smart. And that's not the only thing that they have really played around with. In every single game, you always start off and you've always got your rival there. You've always got your group of little friends around you. And they've tried to toy with that in the past couple games. They've tried to come in and go, okay, well, what can we do differently? What if we give you 2 rivals? What if we give you a group of friends and each of them serve a different role? But it's all still kind of the same. Granted, I am only 15 hours into this game, so I don't know where it's all going to lead. But one thing that I can tell right off the bat that they are doing different is that in all the other games, it's alright, you guys go, you pick your Pokemons, now you go off on your journey, and then it's basically just you running through grass, and that's pretty much it. Until way down the line you end up running into them again, and you talk and you fight, and then that's it. In this one, you have 2 buddies that are following you around. But here's the thing, they pretty much follow you around pretty much everywhere that you go. Pretty much at the end of every single path or every single route that you go down, there's going to be some kind of a cutscene in which you end up running into one of them, and they tell you about their story, and they kind of push the story of the overall game forward a little bit. This no longer feels like you're going out into some big open world and you just kind of are trusted to follow the story. It really feels like there's a story here. It feels like this is a more structured story in which they are trying to get you attached to all the characters in this world more than you have had in any of the other games. A good example of what I'm talking about is that normally every single Pokemon game begins the same way, with your character moving into this town and then you go and you meet the professor. This game actually doesn't even begin with you. It begins with one of the supporting characters in the game, Lily, who ends up becoming your friend, and it has her running out of some facility with something secret in her bag, and she's being chased down by people, and this character ends up becoming your friend. So right off the bat, before they even get introduced to you, the protagonist, you know there's an actual story here. There is actually something big going on that you are going to have to deal with later on in this game. And as I said, you get to actually interact with all these characters so much in this game, you actually do feel like you're forming a connection with them. Another good example of that would be that after you leave the very first island, it's not just, hey, you get on the boat, now you're on the second island. No, it's you, Lily, your rival, and the professor all board onto this ship, and then there's a cutscene of all you talking together as you're riding these waves from one island to the next, and it was like, this kind of feels like the cartoon. Like when I was a kid and you would watch the cartoon and you would see Ash and all of his friends going off from one location to the next, and they have all these interactions. It's like, okay, you really get that feeling like they're three friends who have really bonded and they're all in this together and they're all going from one place to the next all together. That's exactly what this game is doing, and none of the other Pokemon games have actually been able to capture that feeling before. It was always, you're doing your thing, your rival's doing their thing. However, speaking of your rival, this actually brings me to my first little complaint about the game, which is that I feel like over the past couple of installments, they've been trying to make the game a little bit easier on you. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the changes that they have made to make the game easier have actually made the game better. Like, for example, in the previous installment, they actually gave you a radar which showed you how many Pokemon existed in a certain area, so that way you would know when you actually caught them all. That made it so much easier to actually go on your mission. It didn't leave you running around over and over and over again going, have I got him? Have I got him? Is there one more that I'm missing? So yes, a lot of these improvements have been just that. Improvements. They've made the game better. However, this game feels a little too easy to me. It almost feels like I could be playing a Nuzlocke of this game and I'd still be alright, because I haven't blacked out once. I've hardly even had any of my Pokemon faint, and I say this in regards to the rival because in every single game, the rival always picks the Pokemon that is strong to your starter. In this one, he actually picks the one that's weak to your starter, which in a way actually matches his personality, because your rival in this game is actually really happy and upbeat, and he just wants to have fun. He doesn't want anything to be too serious. So yeah, if he wanted to pick the one that is weak to your starter, that would actually match his personality. However, it did leave me the whole time going, okay, where's my real rival? You're the friendly rival they've started giving me in the most recent games. Where's the one who's actually going to be the threat? And as I said, I'm halfway through the second island at this point, and I just met the kid who is going to be like the antagonist on the enemy team. And I was like, okay, I guess you're going to be him, but it still feels like you're not my actual rival. It still feels more like you're just an antagonist. I kind of left, feeling a little bit empty in that regard. I kind of feel like they have not given me a very memorable rival in this game. They've given me a good friend, they've given me a good companion, not really someone I'm looking forward to at this point of actually having to go up against over and over and over again. However, speaking of the villains team, going back over to the positive side, I actually was kind of nervous when I saw Team Skull, because the villains in the Pokemon games, they started out being like, okay, these guys look like they could actually be threats. Sure, they were goofy from time to time, but I mean, it started off with Team Rocket, and despite what the cartoon makes them seem like, Team Rocket in the game was basically the Yakuza. They were an actual threat. They were headed up by a mob boss. And then from there on, each of the enemy teams, they were pretty darn serious. However, in the last game, in X and Y, Team Flare was kind of a joke. I never really felt like they were much of a threat. So when I saw Team Skull, I was like, those guys look like double the joke that Team Flare was. It looks like they're not even trying to make them a threat in these games anymore. And I started playing this, and it hit me. The game realizes that. The game is not trying to make Team Skull serious, and that is a blessing. That was totally the right decision. Team Skull is hilariously stupid, and the game knows that. Like, it really dawned on me what they were trying to do with Team Skull when there came a point where I was talking to the first captain who I had to battle, and then Team Skull comes in doing all their little hand motions and that weird funky walk that they do, and they start going, yeah man, we're gonna take you on, we're gonna take you down so hard, and then it just cuts back to me talking to the captain, and none of us have even recognized that they're there, and like, come on man, I'm standing right here, and I was like, I actually chuckled out loud at that, and I was like, that's what this is. They realize that the enemy teams have gotten a little bit goofy, they're leaning into that, and it's actually pretty good. I don't know how funny it is in the Japanese version, but the English localization team actually made Team Skull's dialogue pretty darn funny in this game. So as long as they keep that up, I'm going to continue to be invested in this. I'm going to continue to enjoy going up against them, and as I said, even though I was kind of disappointed, I was like, man, they don't really seem to have a threat in this game. I just met the chief antagonist, who is going to kind of be my rival on their team. It actually looks like he might have a pretty good story. I don't know where it's going to go, but I actually am intrigued to see what happens. Now, okay, that pretty much covers the story and the characters and the whole structure of the game, but there's a lot of small changes to the actual gameplay from the previous installments, and some of them are for the better, some of them are for the worse. And one that I actually found to be for the better is this new QR code scanner that they put into the game. You see, what you can do now is you can actually go into your Pokedex, and you can actually bring up a Pokemon and then display a QR code for it. And then a friend of yours can go in there with their 3DS and scan that QR code, and it will add that Pokemon to their Pokedex. And not only that, but also, once you have scanned 10 different Pokemon with this QR code scanner, it will then tell you that there is a super rare Pokemon, one that doesn't even exist on your Pokedex, that has popped up, and it will tell you what route you can find on, and will give you an hour to go and find it. In fact, I did this with my wife, and a Chikorita popped up on hers. Like, that is a super rare one, and it indeed was not in the Alola Pokedex. And she was able to go and find it before she even challenged her first captain. I almost called him a gym leader again. But yeah, so really early on, she was able to get this super rare Pokemon because of it. And I actually love this idea, because ever since Pokemon entered the age of the internet, it hasn't really had that human connection that it used to, because when I was a kid, if you wanted to actually capture them all, you had to find someone else out there who was playing the game, and you had to link together with a link cable. So yeah, you had to actually go out there and find other people actually playing this game. But now, if you want to catch them all, you can just go online. You can actually just go out there and connect with someone on the other side of the world and trade back and forth with them, which, don't get me wrong, is a really cool idea, but I fully understand that Nintendo has, for the longest time, been wanting to kind of recapture that feeling of going in and having a one-on-one connection with people, and this is a great way to do that. This is a great way to force people to actually go, okay, do you have a game? Cool, let's actually go and connect with our QR code so that way we can get really rare stuff really early on. Of course, you can probably also just do that by finding the QR codes online, but still, I like the idea behind it. Another change they've made that I really enjoy is that in the previous games, you would go over many different types of terrain. Sometimes you would be going over grass, sometimes you'd be going over a desert, sometimes you'd be going over the ocean, but you'd still be following a path. It'd be a pretty much straight path, sometimes a twist here, twist there, but it would pretty much just be a flat path. Here, you're actually going over different types of terrains. You actually have to go up hills, and sometimes those hills actually curve around, and sometimes they'll be swooping around the city, and there'll be different ways to enter into the city. It's not just a simple, straightforward path. It actually feels like you are now running around inside of a real world. It feels like they actually built an island here, which is great, because the whole idea of Pokemon is to go out there into this big, bold world and capture these animals, and this feels like you're going out there to do that exact thing. It feels like you are going out there into a world, and you are finding these animals in all kinds of different locations now. And the last positive change that they have made to this game is one that we have been asking for since the very first game. They finally fixed the HMs. This has been something that Pokemon fans have hated in every single game. It's the idea that if you want to actually progress down specific paths and actually reach the end of the game, you have to teach your Pokemon specific moves that cannot be unlearned, and you have to keep on them throughout the whole game. And some moves don't work on certain Pokemon, so that means that you have to now structure your entire party so that way it's not really the Pokemon that you even want anymore, it's the Pokemon that you need in order to cross the ocean, go up a waterfall, climb this hill, and break these boulders. They finally managed to fix it. In this one, you have a pager device, and when you need to go out there across the ocean, when you need to break some boulders, you just take out the pager device, and basically you just Uber yourself a Pokemon who shows up to do the job. It's genius. And it even kind of adds a Metroidvania sense to this game, because now it gives you a reason, after gaining new abilities on your pager device, to go back to previous parts of the game to find new unexplored paths. It's a brilliant idea, and it makes you look at this and go, why did you not do this sooner? So almost all the changes that they have made to this game have actually been for the better, aside from one. There is one thing that they add to this game that drives me freaking nuts. I have screamed at moments while playing this game because this thing is so frustrating. There's a new mechanic that sometimes Pokemon that you find in the wild when you're trying to capture them, will call for help, and another Pokemon of that type will show up to assist them. And I know you're going to think, oh, so it's kind of like the Swarm Battles. No, because the Swarm Battles were a bunch of weak Pokemon. They were really tiny versions of the Pokemon you would find in that area, so you could wipe them out fairly easily. These are Pokemon that are of the same size, same level, and same strength of the one that you are currently going up against, and it's not like they can just do it once. They can keep doing it over and over and over again. It's not even like they have to sacrifice their move for the turn in order to be able to do it. They can do their move and then still summon out assistance at the end of the turn. And if you're trying to capture a Pokemon, as long as there are 2 Pokemon out there, you can't throw a Pokeball. So you could go in there, spend the whole turn taking down the one they just called in. As soon as that turn ends, they call in another one, and you have to keep doing this over and over and over again. I was trying to catch a Smeargle. I swear to you this is true. I had to take down 7 different Smeargles before I could finally capture the one I was trying to get. It drove me insane. It's not fun. It just extends the battles. It just drives you nuts. Please, for crying out loud, if you're going to put this in any future Pokemon games, at least make it so that they can only do it once or twice, or make it so that they have to sacrifice their move for the turn. So that way, if you're already facing 2 of them and you end up taking one of them out, they can't then still just go ahead and summon out assistance after you took that one down because they didn't plan for it. They already planned to move out for that turn. Oh my god, it's so frustrating. Also, this is a tiny, small, little nitpick, but I actually love that all the characters in this game are so expressive. Like, I feel like they really went in and went, we need to make every single one of these characters really look animated and look like they all have personalities with all their expressions and their body movements. I think that they did a great job with that, except on your protagonist. On your character, no matter what is happening, no matter what someone is saying to you, no matter what the situation is, they always just stand there in the same pose with this big look on their face. And it just makes them look completely unalive. I understand that because we now have character customizations, you can't animate them as much as you can the supporting characters who all look in a pre-programmed way. But still, the eyes, man. Do something with the eyes. Give them different expressions based on what the situation is. That can't be too hard. But again, that is a small little complaint. But okay, that's it for my early thoughts on this game. Again, this is the first time that we ever tried doing a video like this, so if you liked it and you want to see more early thoughts on games after I've started playing them, then let me know that in the comments down below or on Twitter and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. Also remember, I am going to be doing a full-on review of this game when I have completed it, as well as many other Pokemon related videos because I freaking love Pokemon and it's the best time of year to be talking about. So if you want to see any of those, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, if you want to support this channel, the best way to do that is simply to share my videos and to give us a thumb up. It's the best way to help people find us. That's all from me. I'm just going to say thanks for watching, everyone. Catch 'em all. That sign off was terrible.